Va bene. I think we can start. Yes. I'm going to start in Arabic for 1 minute and then I'll switch to English. مساء الخير. مرحبا. سوري إنكم استحملتوني اللي كانوا اجوا on time. My name is Mohamed Baitie. I'm a business development director of GLC Paints. I teach recently color at the American University in Cairo. And we are here tonight thanks to the generous sponsorship of Dolato, Gelateria. You might wonder why an architect who teaches color, who works in marketing and branding, is moderating a panel of fashion and photography. But because I'm a staunch believer in collaboration. I'm a staunch believer that we cannot work alone, and I'm a staunch believer in storytelling. And I believe that collaboration is an essential part of storytelling. So I'm honored. I'm very, 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 very happy and very privileged that Cairo Photo Week hosted us here. I'm very honored and privileged to have such an amazing team, such amazing people on this panel. I mean, you're all, for me and for lots of people, legends. Without further ado, I'm gonna start tonight's panel. It's about collaboration. It's about image making and fashion. So I'm gonna start by introducing Anna Pia Lorenzi. It's a pleasure and an honor having you in Cairo, really. You're the founder and owner of a boutique star agency. You operate in the fields of luxury, fashion, advertising, beauty, and lots of other things. You are as well a strong believer in creating collaboration between artists, between brands, and you love to create campaigns and editorials and covers that impact daily lives. So there's always content. Thank you for being with us, and I would like you to, we're gonna watch a small reel about Anna Pia, and then I would ask you to invite you to introduce yourself and your agency, please.
Thank you very much.
ومعنا نهلة ورا مع الصوت يا نهلة. ممكن الصوت لو سمحتوا. There's وممكن نعيد من الأول نهلة. Nahla is an architect and she's our support system tonight.
But anyway, I mean, images are important. So the music, of course.
Compliments, but the music is super important. Talking, so. Of course. Okay. We're gonna watch the real show from the beginning and then go ahead, Nahla, please. Wow. Presentation.
Thank you. Not wow, thanks for me. I mean, it's the artists that are really cool.
Of course. So Anapia, introduce yourself, please, and tell us why do you do what you do?
So, first of all, thank you for the invitation. It's the first time for me to be here in Cairo. Sorry. Sorry. Now, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. It's the first time that I'm in Cairo, so I'm very thankful for that. I'm an agent. I love photography and art, and I like to collaborate with artists. Of course, I cannot really add something more that you said to me for the presentation. So I have an agency in Milano and I work internationally, and the artists are from Europe and not only. My work is to promote, of course, the work of my artists. I try to create a relationship, a strong relationship with all of them, because it is the best way for me to promote their work. So if I know exactly what they would like to do, what I feel, it's easier for me to explain to brands and to the commitment what we could create together. So sometimes I just try also to create some projects with them and propose the project to the brands, or just to present the work of the artist, and hoping that my commitments can understand and give us a very good campaign and project.
We have here some of, I think, the artists that you represent.
Yes, I work in fashion field, art and sports and beauty. So in this case, we have more fashion photographers. Max Vadukul is an Indian photographer. Yeah, we did some very beautiful campaign together. He used to stay in New York. Now he moved to Milano. And then Babic, of course, that will speak
yes,
and explain better his work. Branislav Simončink is a photographer based in Bratislava and working with Vogue Portugal and beautiful campaign for Dolce Gabbana. It's more fashion, yeah. And then Joseph Card is an Italian photographer. He works with celebrities a lot for Vanity Fair and actresses, and also Borsalino, that is a very old brand of luxury hats. And then Gianluca Fontana is another Italian photographer, very sensible to beauty.
Sensual.
Sensual, yeah, but never vulgar. Gilles Ben Simon is an iconic photographer. He's a photographer of the 80s and 90s, was the director of USA. Is really an iconic photographer. Yeah. He worked with top models and...
I remember the photo to the...
Yeah, Cindy Crawford.
Yes. This is an iconic,
yes,
iconic photo.
No, and he has been married also with Elle Macpherson.
Of course.
She was called The Body. I mean, really an iconic photographer of the 80s, but he still works, huh? Nice. Then jewels and makeup and still life, we have photographers that are more specialized in this field. So Thomas Straub, that is a German photographer based in Sweden. And then Rui Faria is a Portugal-American photographer in London. Karina Taira, she's Japanese, but born in San Francisco, and we work a lot for beauty. She's also a film director. And then Laurin Hinz is a very young photographer based in Germany. She shoots also for Vogue Arabia. Luca Privitera is a young Italian photographer specialized in design. And then I have Alberto Maria Colombo. He's an artist, a photographer, a film director, and he works with artificial intelligence. That is something that is often more requested by the brands.
Artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
We're going to get back to that.
Yes. And then we have a photographer like Giampaolo Vimercati, specialized in equestrian images, sport, and you have to be very fast when you work with a sport. And then Gabriele Galimberti, he did several books like Americans. You see a picture on
the left.
On the left.
A destra is the left?
A destra. No, left e sinistra.
No.
Sì. And he's collaborating also with the National Geographic, and he did another very beautiful book called Toy Stories. George Tatakis is a Greek photographer specialized in, now in fine art. He only shoots in black and white. Never call it. James Mollison, we do together Fay Archive advertisement. He travels a lot and is a portrait also photographer. Stefano Tiozzo is another photographer for landscape. He's Venetia di Arden. She's a British photographer based in London, a very lifestyle mode.
Who misses the sun a lot.
And then fine art. Federica Belli. She's really, really young. She's 23 years old, but she already exposed in Paris photo. Evelyn Benchikova, she's an artist based in Berlin. She is from Bratislava too. This was Dior magazine anyway. And then Ursu, he lives in Milano and very, very arty. He did an academy of art in Venice, and it's not so commercial, as you see, but I love it. And then videomaker, we have Peppe Tortora. We did some spot with him for Roberto Cavalli and Bottega Veneta. Adam Soka-Keller is a film director now based in Athens. And we have won 2 fashion film festivals with him, and we did also a collaboration with Gucci and Frieze London. So there is always this linked sometimes with photography and brands and art. And then we have Milva Gigli. She's a stylist. So she used to work also with Helmut Newton. And Stefano Canulli, he's a great illustrator and also costume designer. He used to work with Thierry Mugler for a long time. And also he designed the costumes for Les Sûrs du Soleil. And that's it.
That's a lot. That's a very impressive.
Sorry for my English, but
that's a very impressive portfolio.
It's not so easy to stay on a stage. I have to tell you, I am a little bit shy. So now I will have a big empathy with the people on a stage when yeah, I understand now.
But I'm gonna go to Babic. But you present a very varied portfolio of artists that are from different generations, and one of the questions on my list is, do you represent any young ones? And I could see that you actually do represent young ones, right?
Not only young ones. No, the age is not a limit.
Important, but I mean, like, because we could see stuff from the 80s,
Yeah.
And we could see stuff that you said 23 years. It's not, definitely it's not about the age, never about the age. But sometimes agents perceive that you have to have a lot of experience, you have to have a lot of shoots. It's like it's not being a pilot. You don't need 250,000 hours of flying so that you can fly a plane. And this is why when an artist comes to Anapia to represent him, what matters for Anapia?
For me, there are no limits. I mean, not age, not experience. Okay, of course,
technicalities matter.
Yeah, technical, yes, because otherwise it's too risky to promote for a brand, or, you know, I'm an agent anyway. I'm not an art gallery. So when I go to present a photographer or a director, the client, the commitment are expecting that they are able to do the project. So not only nice images to have, you know, on a wall. So the technical experience is important. But you can find young photographers that are well prepared and they are able to do it. So this is the only limit.
The portfolio.
The portfolio, of course, and the portfolio, the talent, and of course I need to know a little bit deeply the artist. For example, the youngest photographer that I represent, Federica Belli, but she already won some awards, and she's working already as a photographer for example, Ferrari.
Oh, wow.
Okay, portraits, backstage, this kind of projects, but she's able to do her job, her work.
Of course.
So.
I'm gonna move on to Babbage. Can we have the presentation on? So you started as a عشان انت بوظت لهم اليوتيوب streaming دلوقتي. So you are you is it working?
Yes.
Now it's working. Zoya, you have to take over.
Doesn't work around. Okay. Hi everybody.
So
well, I started as a photographer like, first of all, I have the problem of hearing, so if you have a question to me,
ask Zoya.
I want my daughter to tell me what you're asking me, because I got the problem of hearing, so don't worry. I'm explaining now my career. I started as a photographer of portrait, and after a certain period, I tried to do fashion, considering that fashion pictures, they are coming like a portrait, as a portrait pictures. And as most of the photographers of portraits are famous, are fashion photographers. If you think about Irving Penn, Avedon, and so on, they're all fashion photographers, mostly of them. Why? Because when you're talking to a person, you just look at them, and it's a portrait, but if you just go 2 steps around, you see the way he's dressed, and you more far where he's standing, the posture, the place, the light, and that's fashion. Fashion is basically a social need, so we all need to get dressed. So that's why I started my career in fashion, coming back from London and doing my first picture with Cadet.
No,
we can start.
Stefano, we're going to start with the reel
presentation,
and then we're gonna show a small reel about the work of Stefano, and then about Babish, and then we're gonna start with the presentation.
All right. That's the video. Now we saw what the picture is.
Now we're going to see the pictures. So, voila.
There we go. As you see, those are my first pictures in fashion. I got there right close up of two women, two different kind of women. The dresses are only a few inches, because in fashion, what you really try to recognize and to focus on it is the kind of woman you're taking picture of. The dress is something that you just wear because it's in a need. Then you go ahead. And the next consequence, you see, you find a way, you're far away, the same kind of women are just taken from above, from along the distance. In this case, we are pointing out the same future stylist who will be becoming very famous, Franco Moschino, and he was pushing with this line on the way to mark the fact of being very Italian, fighting against the fashion, the French fashion. Following these, see, so always, and then we arrive to the point where Franco Moschino catch the attention of a strong company, industrial company, that decided to produce his first line called Moschino. In this case, we want to break the idea of a special woman with a very sort of graphic image, a portrait, but just to catch attention. Right, because when you work for a brand, you have to put the focus on what the stylist means with that kind of picture. In this case, Franco was like breaking the market or the idea of a cowgirl, not a cowboy, but a cowgirl. The consequence of that is the evolution using the Italian style, the dress with a flag, and the classical idea of the dress of the woman, but as a statue of the Parthenon in Athens. Yes. Carrying on, then it was like deciding to use Milan and the Duomo of Milan and the cowgirl, always focusing the fact of a certain portrait. You see, the fashion is what she's wearing, but the idea of fashion in this case is a kind of woman, what she's wearing, where she is in that moment. But when you work with a stylist, sometimes you have to work in different kind of the style of the stylist. In this case, we're working on the jeans. So the idea was like catching and using the jeans for every kind of people, men, old women, young babies, older people, young people, any kind. And then to catch attention, always something which is glamour, called glamour, something catching the attention, the movement, or the strange, or the ironic side of the way, boring, because it could be, a woman could be bored, or be funny.
Yes, because everyone needs to hear you. Voila. We can, okay. And that's Moschino.
Yeah,
that's Mr. Moschino
in this case, it's a great like
Mr. Moschino in Tom of Finland style.
Yeah. Then we're going back to Dolce & Gabbana. These pictures were taken using the top model of the 90s. In this case, Linda Evangelista, Gail Elliott, Sandra, Chrissy Turlington, and so on, but in a different way, like true pictures. That was a backstage done on purpose. The campaign was made like to make this extraordinary woman, but really real there, in a moment till the end, when it was like the presentation. Here, as Stefano, Dolce & Gabbana, there's a portrait. Then working for Ferré afterwards in haute couture. So that means, try to explain that a photographer, a fashion photographer, can expand his knowledge from the haute couture to the jeans, to the prêt-à-porter, just being aware of the style of the designer, the fashion designer, but expressing his style, proper style of the photographer in studio or outside. In this case, it's couture, but afterwards we're having pictures of her jeans, of her accessories, foulard, and so on. In this case, jeans again. So the same fashion designer. And then going to editorials, which is a totally different way of approaching. In the editorial, you can find the position of doing still lives of something to be interpreted. Like if they give you some jewels, you can use only a hand to show a jewel, or a positional, a strange position of the woman to show accessories and jewels, no? Just to catch the attention of the people. See, fashion is movement, is a portrait, is a moment. It's a portrait. Could be man or could be woman. Could be anybody just wearing something. Could be a straight man, classical man, or interesting, or could be somebody strange, peculiar. Could be outside, outdoors, or could be in the studio. It's just the idea the photographer's got in his brain, the fantasy, basically, coming back. The portrait of a woman is just a moment. Jewelry, Vogue gioiello, or swimming costumes, or whatever. Man, it's just using your fantasy, expanding your ideas. See, in a modern way, or in a modern way, or in a classical way. You know, just using light. For instance, this picture.
Yes.
This picture was made on film. There is no trick. It's no post-production. It's not digital. It's analogical. It's just a glass, and you just put a piece of the chest play and shooting the picture underneath the glass, through the glass, the chest and the guy wearing a shirt. And that's an editorial, a fashion for man. It's just due to your fantasy. That's the way that a photographer goes. Or I give you a brief, like talking about the sleep, you know, using maybe an actor or a singer in this case, you know, or somebody else, like who's not coming next. Let's see, in this case, like using color or black and white. You see, he's always going back to the portrait. But in this case, this is Estelle, the singer, or whatever it is, comes, black and white or color. I think photography, in my opinion, I love black and white, but I can do anything, but black and white, in my opinion, is more catching. I think a color is like, but especially, but it's black and white, but color is like more real. You know, photography in black and white is extraordinary. You know, well, the color is more real, but it depends. In this case, we were working for brand accessories. Those are lunettes, sunglasses, eyeglasses. And now, that's the part I'm working recently. I'm working on fine art. This was my exhibition that I've done recently in Milan, talking about basically starting from the portrait, but talking something about the splitting image of the face. And what I'm recently going to do, what I'm doing recently is working on the fine art. So I'm starting from portraits, doing fashion, and expanding my experience in fashion, and going back to portraits for fine arts. That's all. Thank you.
That's magnificent. I was telling Ämr I need to steal some of these photos, Anna, from his archive for the house. We're gonna get back to you. Can you take back your seat, sir? And last but not least, I would like to introduce my friend, who's an architect, an artist, fashion photographer, a fashion curator, an art director, founder of Divas of Arabia, curator of Divas of Arabia, and I mean, a magnificent artist, Ämr Ezzeldinn. I invite you to introduce yourself.
I'm Ämr Ezzeldinn. So I can summarize to say that I am a photographer, and everything else came around it, but I am a photographer. I also want to say that I learned fashion photography from Babbage, and this is how it came for him to be now. So I was his student, and that's how it started. And actually, I wasn't even a really good student at the time because I arrived to the course halfway. I didn't attend maybe the first 4 or 5 classes. And he, like, you know, when he saw me first time, he said, I don't care, just learn from the people around you. But at the end of the course, he understood that I'm a good photographer. So. Yes, and...
Do you still believe he's a good photographer? Zoya, ask him if he still believes that Ämr is a good photographer.
Oh, I think he's one of my best students. I think he's great, doing a great work.
Yeah, thank you. And yes, and after I finished university, I did my graduation project, which was then nominated to Fashion Film Festival. And actually it was that time that Babbage introduced me to Anna Pia. It was very brief. And he told her that I was going to be a good photographer, and it ended here. And now we're here again, a few years later. And he also told me that I will be shooting a book cover in no time, and yes, in 3 years this happened. So, like, this talk is not really about me, so I'm going to make it very brief, so we can later, I'm only going to show my work, so we see the contrast. And you see that actually, this is like my work that happened during the past years, and I have shot many covers in short time. I shot in Milan, in Paris, in Dubai, in Egypt, like everywhere I could, in Moscow, in so many places. And as you can see, like, my work has nothing to do with the style of Babbage, but he guided me through the first step, and then like I was inspired to do my own style and my own thing. And my own style was basically, if you call it docu-editorial, so I always like to include the reality in my pictures. I'm not a studio photographer. I do not enjoy to shoot in studio or shooting the actual classical fashion. I prefer to have a certain kind of thing, something related to what's happening in the actual world. And I place the model with its styling, with its mood and everything in the context that it is. Yeah, so here you can also see these pictures actually where I started to shoot on film. I moved from digital to film. So all these pictures have been shot entirely on film and in the street, which is not easy, especially as I shoot medium format film. And you have to be very fast because you only have 10 pictures in a roll. And yeah, these have been a transition that has been very interesting for me and allowed me to slow down more and take time to look at my pictures better and enhance them. And then I moved to something else, which is localizing my work. At some point after COVID happened, I was working so much in Europe at that time, and I was aiming to go to New York and move there and things like that. And just before I go to New York, COVID happened. And I decided to stay like in the Middle East. I stayed in Dubai, and then I moved to Egypt for a while. And I started to see how I can localize my work and shoot fashion in the Arab context. And this is where it started. And these were shot, these are all in Egypt. This is in Aswan, this is in Luxor, and this is in Ämr Ezzeldinn in Cairo. And it has the same features where I try to include the reality in it. So most of these pictures are not staged. They're actually how it has been. And even here, I really like this picture actually because it was the first Divas picture, actually, and the first cover of Divas. Because it was a moment where I brought my friend Juni, which she's Egyptian, Moroccan, French. She lives in Paris. And I wanted to have a face that has not been seen before and start to make a story around her. And we went to Ämr Ezzeldinn Street in Old Cairo. And we started shooting there. And at some point when we were shooting this picture, this little boy stood over there and he didn't want to move. And no matter what tells him, and even the police came to him and he said, no, let me go, I want to stay here. So I thought he has to be part of the picture because it's a story that this guy is not moving, so he has to be here forever. So this was an image that for me was interesting to see that little boy and how he's looking at her. And I think for him it will be a memory. And then after that, we moved to Aswan, and Salma Boudef, which is an actress, many of you know her, and she came with me, and we did this story in Aswan, which was, some of it was with Salma, and some of it was the locals of Aswan, which we casted them, and they're all sailors, they work in the Nile on boats. And we went through 300 people till we picked a casting, and we tried to have a relation between them, some kind of a story. So these guys were getting married as a couple, so we went to their home, and we filmed them, and we styled all of them. So all of them are styled actually by different brands that we brought over there. Can we move to after? Yeah, and here these are also in Aswan, and you see like those guys. All of this is in one island actually called Hesa, which is the original Nubian island where all the Nubian actually live, and it's not really a touristic place. So it was interesting to go there and try to localize fashion in our area. So this is actually, you have a great backdrop already over there that sometimes you try to create it to make a fashion image, but it exists and it's our culture, so why not just use it as it is? And we paid them as models as we pay the models normally and everything. And even like some of these pictures are sold in the exhibition downstairs, and all the proceeds are going to them to build their homes of the Nubian community. And yeah, and then here, these two pictures are very interesting because I did them with Chantal, which is a Sri Lankan Italian friend of mine, a stylist, and she's very inspiring in her work. We knew that in Dubai they are going to destroy the Dera, which is the old Indian place, to build it in a new way. So we thought, okay, let's go shoot over there before we lose this authentic place forever, which is probably the last authentic place that will remain. So we went there. We went to the local souk where all the Indians are selling their clothes. We bought from them the clothes and we styled them on the spot, and we started shooting the editorial. And this is a funny picture because we didn't mean to shoot in the water, but actually while she was standing up, her phone went in the water and she just jumped to get her phone. Actually, it was even my phone, not her phone. And then I told her, okay, stay there. We're taking this picture. So she stayed there and we took it.
Did you get your phone after that?
Yes, actually, it was working well even.
Was it an iPhone?
Yes, it was iPhone. That time was, I don't know, 8 or something.
سجلوا دي عشان نشرج أبل بعد كده. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, and then here, these are like the heels, still life pictures, because so many people ask me in the exhibition, why are you shooting still life pictures and why do you put them? Why do you think this is art? And I think that I did that because still life is a big part of fashion, and we see it in all the polished magazines, in Vogue, everywhere. And I think you've even seen Babbage's work where he showed a lot of beautiful still life with the hands of the model and things like that. But I took a different approach. I thought that, okay, like how can I localize this? How can I include it in our culture more? So I decided to take a heels, which is a woman product that is considered kind of fancy, and you have to wear it to specific occasions, and localize it and use what I have over there to try to make a still life picture out of it that doesn't look like the normal polished picture you see in the magazines. Okay, let's move with this. Yeah, and after that, I thought that I want something more than just an image. So I decided to focus a bit more on fashion films. And I started my first project with Dolce & Gabbana, DNG, this one, which was the beginning of me shooting like film. They're all 1-minute videos, so it will be fast. So basically the story of this project is that Dolce & Gabbana, they made a beauty product which is based on kohl, like the Arabian mascara. And they wanted to make something that it's like more related to the Arabian culture. And at that time, like no one really was focusing on that side of work at all. So I had like a friend at Marie Claire magazine that introduced me to them and said, he's the right guy for you. And we started with this project. And after this project, like things started moving forward, and so many other came to me with the same thing that, okay, we want to localize more the brand. Let's do more things like that in the Middle East. And it was good. And then actually the COVID happened. And during COVID, there were a lot of interesting things happening around. And one of them was a big sexual harassment story around Egypt that was at the same time. And Vogue Arabia wanted to do a cover story, and we thought to make something that speaks about women. And we thought that someone that could speak well about women, that could be Hind Sabri, because she's an advocate for women. And I asked her to write a letter to women of how we see it and how is the world right now when everything stopped. And we made this project, which is called Hope, that was a special edition of Vogue September issue of 2020. And it's kind of a portrait of women as past, future, and present through the words of Hind Sabri. So let's play it.
رسالة إلى هندوش، بنت 14 سنة في ليلة تصوير لأول فيلم في حياتي. هندوش، أنت لا تعلمين أن حياتك سوف تتغير غداً إلى الأبد. ستدخلين عالماً سحرياً من باب واسع، عالم يتمنى الكثيرون دخوله ولم تحلمي به أبداً، ولكنه قدرك. سوف تتأكدين عبر السنوات وكلما حاولت الهروب منه أنه قدرك. سوف تتعلمين بسرعة أن كونك مختلفة ومستقلة بفكرك وبقراراتك سيجلب لك العديد من المتنمرين والمتربصين. سوف يحاولون تحطيمك، التقليل منك، سوف يعطلون مسيرتك، سوف يسيئون فهمك عن قصد، سوف يشمتون حين تقعين، ويحاولون الإيقاع بك حين تنهضر. ستقابلين في مشوارك نساء قويات، قادرات، فخورات، سوف يلهمنك، سوف يشجعنك ويرجعن لك صوتك. ستشكرين والدتك ووالدك على تربيتهم لك، لأنهما آمنا بك وبقدراتك ولم يحاولا يوما السيطرة على فكرك وقراراتك. ستحققين أحلاما لم تحلميها. سوف يكون لك صوت يصل إلى كل أنحاء العالم العربي. تذكري دائما أن تكوني صوت من لا صوت له. تذكري أن تجعلي صوتك في خدمة الذي تؤمنين به، بخدمة العالم العربي الذي تحلمين به، بخدمة المساواة والإنسانية والتعاطف والعدل. سوف يختار قلبك رجلاً ربته امرأة حرة وقوية فاحترم كل النساء ورآهن ندا وليس تهديدا. سوف تنجبين شمساً وقمراً، عليا وليلى، هما أغلى ما ستحققين، هما الأمل، هما المستقبل، هما حلمك وغايتك. ستعلميهما كل ما تعلمتيه في طريقك. ستربيهما على أن لا تعتذرا أبداً أنهما إناث، أنهما قويات، أنهما ذكيات، ولكن ستتذكرين أنك نجحتِ وأن غيرك كثيرات نجحن، ألهمنك وربما ألهمتهن، وأن كل جيل منا يصفف الطريق لمن بعده حتى نصل إلى اليوم الذي لن نضطر أن نعتذر فيه أننا نجحنا. هند صبري.
Actually, there is something interesting about this project. Thank you. So this project, when it came, it wasn't like this at all. Like when the production called me, Adam and Nadia, I don't know if they are here now. Yes, they are here in the back. So, And they told me, oh, that there is this project, cover story, blah, blah, blah. And then like we were looking over the mood board that was sent, and it was like all Peter Limburg kind of black and white wearing coats, something like that. It was like, I told them, what is this, guys? Like, if we're doing, let's do something right. And we kept working on trying to make a counter proposal for doing an actual project that makes sense and be more related to us and to our culture than making just some winter coats of Peter Limburg's style of photography. And we managed to convince them, and still like the magazine was still a bit worried about it, skeptical till last minute, till they saw the final result, and then they told us, yes, thank you for doing this, because of course it had a much bigger impact, and this was viral at that time everywhere. And this is like just the way I kept moving like that, and from since then I have been always trying to work in fashion in a different way, which is not using fashion as making a fashion image. Actually, it's just a tool for me to send a message, whatever this message is.
And you created a language that is very personal to you. And this is where I want to ask Babish. How do you believe fashion photography has evolved? I mean, you started in the 80s?
Well,
Yeah, we need the mic. Everyone needs to hear you. Voila.
Is that going? Yes. I think that recently the fashion photography, not fashion photography by itself has been, there is evolution in fashion photography. I don't think there is as much evolution in fashion, in the sense that today fashion has to concern a big business. So the new ideas, new way of designing, especially for photographers now, there is no the same freedom that it was used to be. I think the glorious time of fashion photography has been around the 80s, basically. Between the beginning of the 80s, at the end of the 80s, first of the 90s. Today, even if we have a great jump in the technical instruments like the digitals and the evolution of and the way of making like 3D or whatever, I think that there is not such a freedom, or maybe because we are used to too many images all together. Every day there are around 6 billion of images every single day. The problem is how many of the 6 billion pictures we remember. That's the question. I think that during the 80s we had the chance to have more fantasy and the chance of having more memory of the picture that we can remember.
That's you don't believe that currently in the past decade there are memorable pictures for us in our head? Is it because and I'm going to ask both of you the question, because we saw Linda, we saw Cindy. The world of supermodel, the idea of a supermodel is dead. Kim Kardashian came and the Kardashians took over. We have social media. But do you believe that there are no memorable photos because of that, because of social media, because of decline of supermodel? Why do you believe there aren't memorable photos?
Well, good question. I don't know. I'm using social, but I'm not very keen about social. I think through the social you can see everything, even a lot of shit, basically. A lot of rubbish. But
You are free to say whatever you want.
No,
This is
no,
a free
in the
space.
sense that I'm trying, what I'm trying to say that in my social, I have very few pictures. I don't know how, obviously the social, they help in showing how the problem is, how many things are in the social. They're not so selective somehow. We should find some way to select, or maybe because we are selecting before posting you in the social, or maybe the social should have to find a new way of selection. I don't know if I explain myself. Well, the fact of the top models in the social is like a kind of Kleenex or something that you blow your nose and you throw it away. You're using today and tomorrow you forget.
Correct.
Oh, that's okay. Anna, why do you think there was a sudden decline in the idea of a supermodel? I mean, we saw recent, I mean, Naomi is still very, very relevant. She's the star of any place she goes, but we don't have the idea of a supermodel anymore. And Amr, of course, you are free to pitch in and tell me. But Anna, I mean, as a star agent of photographers, why do you believe this happened? What happened and when?
No, I think that we have a supermodel, still we have. There has been an era, an age where we really had a lot of them. For example, the fashion show, the backstage of Dolce & Gabbana that Babic shot was very famous, that show, because Dolce & Gabbana decided to use only supermodels. And then something happens because there was an age where brands decided not to spend so much money for a show, and they had models, normal models, beautiful women, but not stars. Also because they became stars more than the brand. But your question were about why we don't...
I mean, we have, currently we don't have, you say we still have supermodels. I believe we have Kendall Jenner and we have...
They're called top models.
They're
they
not,
just changed the name.
They just, yeah, but I mean, Cindy, Linda, Elle Macpherson, these are icons. Claudia, Naomi, who still very relevant, but they don't have the stature of that they used to have before. And we were having this discussion today about the Kardashians coming up, and I mean, I can say names, right? Coming up, and then they became the stars of the shows. If we saw the latest, I mean, Balenciaga, we saw, if we see any of the Versace, I mean, Donatella last year, she got them all for the anniversary of Versace, but currently we don't have the iconic stature of a supermodel. And my question is why?
I don't have the answer. Sorry.
I do social media. Ämr Ezzeldinn, do you have an answer
what
for
I
this?
was thinking about, you know, the 6 billion, so many pictures that we can see every day in social and so on. Sometimes this bulimia, I don't know the name in English, bulimia.
It's bulimia. Yes.
When you have really a lot of images, it's always more difficult to remind a specific picture. Perhaps what Babic meant, I think, is that in their age, in the 80s or 90s, and also before, what's easier also for the photographers because they could create images that could become iconic. And it's true also that in the past there was more freedom. Now everybody is very worried about social media. And so you have to be very careful about your picture, about your image. So
And I mean, I wanted to keep this for for the end, but it presented itself. Anna Pia, you present Gabriele. I wanted to keep it for the end. I'm sorry, but I had to
wait. Waiting for it.
On a gold dish.
Anna Pia represented the photographer, who's I mean, I'm gonna pronounce his name correctly, Gabriele
Galimberti. Gabriele Galimberti.
He's the photographer who actually shot Balenciaga, the controversial campaign. I was a person who was extremely upset because I'm a person who loves Demna, who believes that he disrupted fashion. You were there on the shoot, and you told me the most beautiful thing is that if you want to see something bad in a perfect image, you see it. It's very subjective. So when we have to be very careful, what do you believe went wrong with this campaign? What do you believe the role of an agent is when they collaborate with a brand? Because at the end of the day, your photographer is deeply impacted by the cyclone that was the Balenciaga epic failure for everyone, although, as you explained it to me today, it was a very innocent one. It was an innocent picture, I mean, because nothing was there.
Yes.
Sorry, I threw you under the bus. I'm
sorry, no, because Balenciaga was a very, of course, a story that touched me and, of course, the photographer. I love Balenciaga as a brand. Of course, they asked Gabriele Galimberti to shoot for them. But we couldn't imagine what happened because I was on set and we didn't see the bed. We didn't see. I mean, they decided of everything on set. The photographer just made a click. Yes. That's real. All the set and everything. And Gabriele is a very good photographer of National Geographic, a very serious photographer. So the problem was he did a book that is called Toys. So there were portraits of kids with all the little objects, all the little toys. A very beautiful book. Balenciaga saw it, and I decided to do the same project for the Christmas gift, little Christmas gift. And so they decided the set and everything. The atmosphere was very nice, and we didn't see the bed. I have to tell the truth. I was there, and Gabriele also didn't see it, because the objects were, for example, this handbag that was a gremlin bear. I don't know if you remember the movie Gremlins. So it was a gremlin dressed up as a punk rock. So, for example, because I'm aged,
you're not at all.
I remember the Sex Pistols, punk rock in London. So they were dressed up like that. With leather.
So the main concept was punk rock, was like really bringing back.
They had this bag, yes. And but we thought that was like I mean, for us was punk rock, not bondage. We didn't see it.
But you as an agent of the photographer and the photographer, you did not have. Do you have a say? I mean, today you told me I would want to have a say. I would want to protect my photographer.
Yeah, next time I will be more careful about that because, I think that you can see the bad in everything, and social are terrible in this sense.
Yes.
Because of course, if I don't know, if I keep my hair like that, somebody can think that is not good, or if I don't know. I mean, it's you can see the bad where you want. So it's very difficult sometimes to understand not to do something that can offend somebody. Of course, there is a limit.
Of course.
I mean, But sometimes in something like, for example, in this case, with these objects, there were color for dogs, and they were color for dogs, really. We had also the little plate for dogs, and also the cucce, come si dicono, bed for dogs, yeah, and collar, yeah. I mean, it was really for that. But somebody saw something bad. You know,
but because as well you were saying about the connotation with the previous campaign where they shot with Bella Hadid the paper with the pedophilia of...
The problem was also that, yes, because of course the previous campaign had this, this paper.
It was just a paper on a table, literally, and when they were scrutinizing everything, they went up close on the paper and saw that it was from a trial, actually.
Yeah.
So
the previous campaign made thinking the people that it was like for pedophilia or something, because this document, come si dice? You don't have to find this document there. It shouldn't have been there.
But it's you as an agent of the photographer, it's not your role.
Next time I will control everything because I have to protect my photographer, of course.
Of course. Ämr Ezzeldinn, taking from there, do you believe, do you believe that fashion is political?
Me, yes. You know that I believe so. I think so, because anyway, like... fashion is a very important part of our culture. I mean, we judge each other by how we look as first impression. Everyone sitting here is wearing something that is, in the end, is called his own fashion. And based on his own fashion, you judge the person when you first see them. And this is actually your always first impression about anybody through fashion. And that's the side. So then when you start creating a story or an editorial or whatever that is provoking the image with something more than the clothes, it becomes political.
So, and this is why you created Divas, because you wanted to say something about Middle Eastern fashion.
Yes, Divas came just from the idea that there is a lack of an actual editorial fashion system in the Middle East that speaks about the culture itself. So every other magazine that time in the Middle East, all of them, they were mainly focused on more Western style of editorials. And you would see on the magazines, maybe 80% is shot by foreigners and only 20% is shot by like locals. And it's rarely even that is matched a local, like from Saudi, that will be a Saudi photographer. It was random, so let's just send this one to shoot this or whatever. And that time was the thing that, okay, why don't we start this kind of conversation? Why don't we start this kind of debate? Why don't we see what's going to happen? And when Divas started, I really didn't know where it's leading to. Like, we just started and let's see. And then slowly we started having contributors from everywhere around the Arab world, and people starting doing shoots everywhere and discovered new places, and shoots coming from Iraq and from Palestine and from Algeria and from Morocco and everywhere. And everyone was shooting with their own identity, with their own style. They were styling their mother or their sister just to do something that they consider their own fashion. And we started a movement. And I believe because of this, all the other magazines started to adapt the same system slowly.
Imitate, more or less. Babish, when do you believe a photo fails? I'm going to let you all ask as many questions as you want. I'm sorry if you're all fine there. ما فيش صوت.
Never.
Photo never fails?
I think photography is going to be eternal. A drawing as a painting, a good picture will be eternal. It will never be ending. Right, okay. A picture or photography, it fails when it doesn't reach the real meaning of it, in the sense. It happens only once, I think, in my career, that I wanted to express myself in something. I was really something upsetting, recognizing that I
couldn't reach what I really meant in that moment. It's a very awkward sensation. That's, I think, is when a picture is fading, when you don't reach the meaning of it, the purpose on the beginning.
Okay. Since this is a panel about collaboration, I wanted to ask you, Anna, and since we are in Egypt, how do you think a local photographer, how do you think a local talent from Egypt or from the Arab world, what does it take? What are the criteria for them, he, to make it internationally, to make it to the cover of Vogue Italia, to the cover of, I don't know, GQ, Numero? What does it take for a local talent to reach there?
I think that just to try. I think that everybody can have the opportunity to have a cover of Vogue, or, you know, it depends on, sometimes you have to be in the right place in the right moment and to meet the right people. You know, if you are talented, you have to keep the hope and go ahead and try and try. And never give up.
Edward told you, the editor-in-chief of
Edward
Vogue.
told me.
Keep on trying and trying and trying.
No, he didn't tell me. He told yes, during a photo week, yeah.
Amr, you've done Chanel, you've done Givenchy, you've done Vogue Arabia, Vogue Italia, Esquire, Numero, lots of editorials, campaigns, stories. You were commissioned by international brands, and you're Egyptian, you're an architect. How did you make it there?
I don't have a clear answer for this, and I don't think anyone has. Part of it is, as Anna Pia said, being at the right place at the right time, and having a lot of discipline, and to actually be very confident of your work and really believe that your work is the right thing that you're doing. And just like, because anyway, like, of course I failed a lot at the beginning. And of course I got refusal from all those brands and all those magazines. And the same people who refused me maybe 8 to 10 times, the 11th time they agreed to work with me. So it's just about like being committed to actually what you really want till you prove that you're able to be there. And when the time is right, you will get it. I think the problem nowadays is in that nobody has patience anymore for anything, and people want to get there fast. They just like trying as much as possible that, yeah, I want to make it. But, you know, like fast success lead to a fast failure. You really need to build your foundations very well, and you need to know what you're offering to them, and you need to sell it well. You still like, it's not just enough to be an artist. Being an artist is not going to get you anywhere if you don't know how to actually sell your work.
Sell your work and sell the work of the brand that you're working for.
Yeah, of course.
Eventually it has...
I mean, this is the professional part. So the professionalism, or to the fact that you need to still understand that this is a brand that needs to sell clothes or perfume or whatever.
Did you work for free at the beginning of your career?
Of course, all my career at the beginning, first 2 years I was working for free.
Babish, do you believe that young artists should work for free at the beginning of their career? And same goes for you, Anna, as well, as a question.
Sometimes not only young photographer. No, sometimes, you know, when there is a nice project, why not? I mean, why not? It depends on the situation and on the project.
No.
ما حدش يشتغل من غير فلوس يا جماعة. برضه قبل ما
No, it's about habit.
قبل ما تشتغل.
It's about habit. Recently, everybody is asking to work, all photographers gratis, even known photographers. If you go to Paris, for instance, they're not paying models anymore if they want to work on editorials. If you're a young photographer, why you shouldn't be paid? No reason. You are working. You should be paid.
I agree. You should always be paid. Should always be paid. You should always be paid. I have lots of questions, but I want to see, is there anyone in the audience who, you're going to have Dolato later in the party, who wants to ask questions, because we have I mean, these fantastic three people, and I have a lot of questions. So I want you to yes, can we have a mic? في عندنا مايكس ولا خلاص؟ ممكن تاخد المايك بتاعي أنا وحسرق واحد منهم.
Yes, first of all, it's a pleasure listening to you all, and thank you. And I think you were about to ask about it. We mentioned AI in this, and I come from the field, so I would like to understand further what was the usage of artificial intelligence in the photography that was mentioned, and if you see that the new generative models have anything to do with your fields and how it affects you as well.
It's for me.
Yes.
I was very fascinated by artificial intelligence. It's a new world, also for me. I've seen a lot of nice work with artificial intelligence. It's something else. It doesn't create. It doesn't disturb photography. Photography still lives and is interesting as for every project. Artificial intelligence gives you more opportunity also to play sometimes, and also for the brand to understand that they can really work in different worlds. They have some, it's like a dream in a certain way. Yeah.
Thank you. That's exactly what I believe.
I have Dr. Ibtissam Farid here today. She gave a fantastic talk. It's called To Code or Not to Code. She said that something I believe is very true. Artificial intelligence will not negate the talent, but those who are not aware of artificial intelligence might be out of the game. So as photographers, as videographers, as architects, as designers, I believe that you need to be super aware of what's happening in this field, because it's a bit scary. I mean, it's, as she said, I'm quoting Dr. Ibtissam, she has a wonderful presentation called To Code or Not to Code that the entire universe should hear of. Someone thinking they have the same capacities of your brain, no feelings yet, but the same capacities of your brain. So I believe it's extremely important. Do we have anyone else with question? Adham Nadim has a question. وانت بعده?
Thank you. It's the question is for Anna. You have a list of super photographers that you represent. How do you manage conflict of interest? Who do you push for a project when they can all do it, or most of them? I know there are specializations, but a lot of it can go to any of them. So how do you manage that?
It's a good question. Now, you know why it's a good question? Because I really feel, because I'm the wife of a photographer, because of course I'm the wife of Babic. So he always, when I started to be an agent, he always told me, remember, your clients are the photographers, not the commitments. And so I always feel so responsible about the work of the photographers that I represent, because they give me their work to promote, they trust me. So for me, it's a...
I gave you also the percentage.
No, yeah. Yes, because I have to be paid, right? I don't work for free, sorry, neither for you.
No, talking generally.
No, so I mean, I try really to understand, to see which project is right for that photographers or that director. Sometimes the brands are called directly asking for some names. And for example, if a brand call asking for a name, I never propose another one for respect. I mean, I don't want to say, okay, if you don't have, enough money or you don't want to work with him, I can propose another one of my roster so I get a job. I can't think about that. That's why I will never make money. But yeah, so it's, I try to do my best. And things happened like that.
So, hi. First of all, thank you so much for the amazing talk. This question is directed, is going to Ämr mainly, but you can all answer because I want to listen all your answers on this. Like 2 years ago, I did a portfolio review with Ämr, and one word he said was striking till this moment. And I was speaking about storytelling and how we create a much more meaningful stories or more in depth. And he said, "You stop. Fashion industry is a very superficial when it comes to images." No, but I kept thinking about this for the 2 years, by the way, and it never left my mind. And then I was doing some search, and I found a very interesting like essay from a master's student doing fashion storytelling masters, and she said like fashion narrates through fragments of meanings. So it does not give you a whole story, it just gives you a window to the word to look at. And when I saw this, what came to my mind is the work of Guy Bourdin at the first glance. So I see like usually you cannot understand fully his image, but it gives you an endless possibilities of multiple worlds that can be created through his images. So after 2 years, I wanted to know your thoughts again on the depth of stories that can fashion tells.
Okay, first of all, whatever I say, it's my own personal opinion. So it's not something that you take for granted that this is the right thing. Every one of us just says their own personal opinion from their experience. So for me, fashion, it's not documentary photography. So whatever pictures I'm making, I'm not telling you this is the reality. I curated the reality, basically. So to make it look better and to enhance like the image, to make it look more appropriate for fashion, let's say, not better, of course. So when it comes to that, like, yeah, I don't think that fashion photography serves to change the world, because I don't think that this is how it works at all. But it helps a lot for you to just maybe send a message in a subliminal way that you don't want to send out loud, and maybe it's not even your place to send out loud, because like I'm not that person who should say that, you know, you should go to this place and help those people, or this is not my message to say here, you know. But I have a very specific subliminal message that you read it through my pictures, and it's up to you to interpret what you see in my pictures. I don't have to explain to you what my pictures are or what they are. Even me, sometimes I don't know what I want to say from them. I have a feeling about it, but I don't have a specific explanation for it. Did I answer your question?
Yes, very much.
Hello. My question is for the photographers. It's kind of the same question in different three questions in the same field. First, I want to understand or ask you your experience with film camera and digital camera, the experience and the feeling that you feel with it. Also, like if you have a project that there is no specific, like it doesn't have a description that you should use film or digital, and you have the freedom to decide. So based on what you decide that you want to use film or digital, and also your feeling toward also black and white film camera or colors, regarding fashion, photography, and the whole thing. I hope my questions are somehow clear.
Babich, do you want to start?
We need a second.
So I will start till she explains to him.
Thank you.
So, okay, for me, I started digital. Actually, I started shooting digital. And it was also because it was in his course. So we had to show everything on set, what we're doing, what blah, blah. We were shooting an actual studio. And then by time, slowly, I started to realize that, I don't know, I'm not so happy with shooting digital all the time. I started exploring film. And funny enough, I started with medium format before 35 millimeter. And for some reason, like this made me not enjoy so much 35 millimeter because it's a really very different experience. So shooting like from a digital camera to 35 millimeter to medium format film 120 millimeter, all of them were very different experiences for me. Until today, I only enjoyed the most when I'm shooting with the medium format, like my big Mamiya RZ is my favorite camera till today. But I don't think it's ever about the camera, to be honest. It's about you. It's more about the physical experience and the psychological experience. So it's the moment that you're just enjoying what tool you use, but the final image you can still get relatively very close to each other, the things. So if you see my pictures, they are a mix of film and digital. You cannot always tell which one is film and which one is digital, but they are mixed with very different cameras, with different things. So yeah, for me, like, yeah, I prefer Nikon as a digital camera, but it's just a personal preference because I have been used to it. So like, this doesn't mean that the others are bad, you know. Yes, and for black and white and color, this is something that also it's a stylistic choice. At the beginning, I used to shoot, let's say, maybe 50%, 50%. Now, maybe it's 90% color and 10% black and white. So that's me.
Thank you.
Well, in my experience, I can tell you one thing. I think the handle is always a handle, in the sense, if you are good to be a photographer with a film, you are good to be a photographer on a digital. That's first. Second, I think the limit of the digital is the black and white, because the structure of the digital is a pixel, and the pixel is a square. So if you follow all the line curves, you know, like sort of the edge of a face, if you enlarge it, you see like this. With the films, it's the grain, which is a dot. So all the dots are following better any kind of curves. That's the first technical difference. The best digital cameras rise till 100 million pixels. The basic film, black and white films, or any kind of film is still 300 million pixels. And that's another difference. Well, the difference is, teaching to young photographers, recently I discovered that I'm very curious about going back to the films. What is the difference? That when I'm shooting those times with films, with black and white films, I could find 7 kind difference of films in black and white. In colors, about 10. Today, if you're shooting with films, you find 3 black and white films and 4 color films. So the range of using different kind of films today is very short. I think the future is for fine art is films, but you have to find the right films for your picture. But for the moment and the production of images is all based on digital. I'm shooting today on digital. My camera is connected by a cable to a computer. If I have the client or an editor or a stylist, when I'm shooting, all the people are around the computer. I can't even see what I'm shooting because they're all there. watching what I was shooting, all right? With the films, I was shooting the Polaroid on the beginning to know if the light was going the right way. Then the Polaroid was there. I was shooting films, and I was never seeing anything till the moment when they have contact sheets. That's the form of basically the difference. It's a matter of choice, personal choice. Obviously, today we cannot shoot if we're working in films. There are few photographers that are pretending to use films while they're shooting, but are very few and are very high level, you know, because all the market, all the people are giving you work, if you're editorials or are advertising, they want to have picture immediately. At the end of the work, you stay there, you're not going away, you stay there to select the pictures, and they pretend to have the selection picture as soon as possible. Why, with films you had 2-3 days, you know, of developing labs and blah, 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 blah. That's the difference. But going to the original point, the handle is always the handle.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions before we...
Can I ask one
Again?
more thing? It's just regarding
You'll have to
the
pay. تفضلي.
But I don't think I know the word in English, but you can translate it.
لو أنا أعرفها.
I think أكيد يعني إنه do you think that the photographer should need إنه كيف يحمض الفيلم يعني إنه يحمض الصورة?
To print, yes. The photographer should know how to develop an analog film.
No, film photography إنه بيحمض الصورة إنه
Develop.
Yes, exactly.
بس شو السؤال؟
Okay, إنه الphotographer should know how to develop the film.
يا لهوي, of course. بس
No, some photographers just
No,
don't
actually, not really. Like nowadays, not really. Like because you have a lot of labs that can just do it for you. It's not very necessary. I mean, it's a fun thing to play with and to try. But anyway, like recently, I discovered that you can never reach the quality of what lab gets you because they have $1 million equipment that you don't have it at home. And the quality of the scanning, especially, you really will not be able to get it. Like me personally, I send my films all the time to London. Like not even anywhere else. I tried in Milan, I tried in Paris. No one is able to get me the quality that I want other than a specific lab in London. And I kept this trial working with like 50 labs or something till I found this lab that understood what I want and my style and doing it for me. And I tried to do it at home. Yeah, I'm getting close, but I'm not getting to their, of course, quality. The client, of course.
I would like to really thank you. I hope that we did not bore you. Thank you very much, Anapia. Thank you very much, Stefano. Thank you, Amr. And thank you, Cairo Photo Week. Anything else you would like to? Shukran, Nahla. And thank you, Zoya, for the translation. Voilà. Grazie.
Thank you so much for
we
this.
We need to have a picture together.
Yes, and here's the trophies.
Who's talking where? انت مالكيش تروفي على فكرة صح؟ هي كنتي بتعمل اسمها مالكيش
Thank you. Oh,
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.